Honestly guys, I have never seen the level of absolute degeneracy as I have over the last couple of days on the internet, and it's all down to live streamers. In the span of just a couple of days, there were updates on the Johnny Somali court case. It looks like he's going away for a long time. There was also that group of French YouTubers that literally killed a man on Kick. It looks like they're going away for a long time. And of course, there was that stupid idiot Rampage Jackson's son who almost killed a man during a live wrestling show. He's definitely going away for a long time. These guys are certainly the worst live streamers on the internet, but all of this happening around the same time really made me reflect on the content that I've made about live streaming. And so today, I'm going to show you guys a compilation of videos that I've made covering Twitch, Kick, and VTubing. For some of them, I'm heading back into the archives, other ones are more recent videos, and I'm covering content from both the Scroll of Scandals and Book of the Banned. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So let's begin with our most recent relevant video about live streamers that got caught gooning. What happens when gooning destroys your online reputation? One such person this happened to was Atrioc, whose accidental leak was perhaps the most infamous in this entire video. It was an otherwise ordinary Monday in late January 2023 when this story unfolds. Atrioc was in the middle of a live stream when his open tabs popped up on his screen for literally a frame or two at most. It's very likely that given the fact it wasn't on his screen for even a second, Atrioc didn't know at the time that he had just contributed to the most humiliating and damaging moment of his entire career.
Good work back there. The Syndicate took a serious blow.
What time is it where I am? What time is it PST?
Hold it. Run that back.
What time is it where I am?
Enhanced section A6.
Eagle-eyed viewers analysed the frame and quickly unearthed a shocking discovery. Atrioc had been accessing a deepfake porn site. Just for reference, in case there's anyone who's watching this that doesn't know what a deepfake is, it's essentially when you digitally superimpose the face and features of one person onto another. So in a lot of cases, people take the likeness of young, attractive female celebrities and put them onto a porn actress to make it look like what's happening to them is actually happening to the female celebrity instead. This means that deepfakes lack the consent of the person who's having their likeness taken. With the rise of AI, it's easier and easier to make this kind of content, which is posing an ever-growing problem for the victims, who are largely young, attractive female celebrities. And in the case of Atrioc, this is where things get even worse. You see, Atrioc is a very large streamer. Today, even after his earth-shattering scandal, he still has a combined 1.25 million followers between his Twitch and YouTube. When this was going down, he was closely associated with some of the largest names in live streaming, such as Ludwig. You might remember me mentioning Ludwig in my recent video about when alcohol ruins your career, but Ludwig is one of the most well-connected content creators on the entire internet. He has a lot of friends, and even a couple of enemies. And he has a girlfriend known as Cutie Cinderella, who in her own right is extremely popular, and she too is close friends with a lot of the largest streamers, particularly a lot of the largest female streamers on the internet. So you might be wondering to yourself, why am I even bringing her name up? Well, as it turns out, Cutie Cinderella, the girlfriend of one of Atrioc's closest friends, actually had deepfakes of herself on this website. Other notable female streamers on the site included Pokimane, Maya Higa, and Sweet Anita. This man had a gooning session to the women that were essentially the closest thing he had to female colleagues. Embarrassing doesn't even cut it. Shortly after this was all exposed, Atrioc would come out on stream with his wife by his side to deeply apologize and try to explain his side of the story. He would reveal that he only accessed the site one time while his wife was out of town, and he had the receipt to prove that he purchased access to the site the very same day he accidentally leaked it. After he was done, he had just forgotten to close the tab.
I don't know. I just clicked the fucking link at 2 a.m. and the morals didn't catch up to me, and I'm sorry. I really fucking am.
And to many people, that's where they thought the story ended. But it does in fact go on. Ever since this incident, Atrioc has been on the straight and narrow, and you can tell that he's genuinely tried to make amends for his actions. He's donated a lot of his money, in excess of $100,000, to try and get deepfake sites taken down, and he has actually succeeded in large parts. According to sources I could find, he's helped take down hundreds of them. In his apology, he does come out to appear genuinely remorseful, and so a lot of people have since accepted that perhaps in a moment of weakness, he made a mistake that will haunt him until his dying day. But given that he's made genuine efforts to make up for what he's done, he's been able to recover a large portion of his audience. If you take a look at his social blade, you'll see a clear story unfold. His leak happened at the tail end of January, so his channel wasn't really affected until February 2023. You can see that he loses subscribers and his views flatline. But several months later, after he put in the work to make amends, his channel saw a second wind, and today he's once more growing. It's impossible to say what his relationship is like with QC and the other female streamers today, but she did say at the time that their relationship was irreparable.
I'm the last person who wants to dislike him. He is one of my boyfriend's best friends. He's only ever been so kind to me. I love spending time around him. If anything, I'm ostracizing myself more from my boyfriend's friends because now I don't want to be around him. I don't want to hate this guy. I really don't. I've loved him for years at this point. I'm devastated, and it's like, what do you want me to do though? Like, how do you move on from that? I don't know. And maybe 8 months from now, emotions settle and something, but I don't see it happening. It's just like, I just can't believe the shit that it's caused.
But this is one case where Gooning almost ended a thriving online career. But due to a genuine effort to make amends, it was able to be salvaged. I'm genuinely curious to hear your guys' thoughts on the situation, so let me know down below in the comments section, because it's definitely divided fans. So yeah, express your thoughts on the situation, or to be honest, any of the stories we have today down in the comments. But of course, Atrioc is not the only person who's ever been exposed for gooning while live. We still have plenty of cases to get to, such as someone who was caught gooning to NSFW horse and lolly content, and a prominent male streamer that had old OnlyFans videos of them leak. But for now, it's time to turn to the dark side. If you're like me, you would have watched Drama Alert religiously back in 2016. The schisms, the feuds, the betrayals, it all had such a je ne sais quoi. And one such incident that Keem reported on back then, within a video that has since been seen by more than 1 million people, included DSP, commonly known online as Darkside Phil, who was caught jerking the gherkin while live on stream. What appears to have happened is that he set up a live stream to record himself gaming, and if you've ever watched a live stream before, you might be aware that this happens quite a lot. You'll get the notification that one's starting, you'll click on the live stream, and you'll be greeted to some sort of graphic saying, stream starting momentarily, it's going to start in a few minutes. And this is just a way to get everyone into the live stream so that when the stream is ready, it can begin with a full audience. Well, in DSP's case, he did not realize that his camera was on and recording him. And for whatever reason, he decided that then would be the perfect time for a cheeky pre-stream wank. Need I say any more? It was only after he had finished that he realized that the camera was on the entire time.
Oh, the camera's on. The camera's been on the whole time, huh? I don't even know.
This is the face of a man who has just realized that he's whacked his gack in front of his entire audience. Let me just say that I really hope that he washed his hands before he picked up his controller to start gaming. DSP had around 200,000 subscribers at the time, and he would never see 300,000. It seems as though he essentially plateaued in growth around this time. And if you're a long-time viewer of his content, you'd know that realistically, him getting caught with his pants quite literally down was not the main reason this happened. Let's Plays are essentially dead in the water today. His content has not evolved with the times. And that's not to say anything of his reputation outside of this incident. On his very own wiki, I found that people call him a hypocrite, a liar, a man-child, and even the cancer of gaming, which is just a fantastic moniker to don. But let's be very honest with ourselves, getting caught choking the chimp while live definitely didn't do him any favors. But from chimps to horses, the words that you're about to hear come out of my mouth were not even fathomable before February 2024, because that's when the infamous Vorsh leaks happened. If you don't know what I'm talking about, dear viewer, you're in for a ride. So you're probably wondering to yourself, who is Vorsh? Well, he's a left-wing political streamer closely associated with Destiny. According to an article by The Independent, he appeared on Destiny streams from time to time, and he was encouraged by Destiny's audience to make his own channel. And so he did, cultivating a fastly growing audience, with him trying to appeal to white men that often felt disconnected from standard left-wing content creators who are usually soy-pilled, woke, and unmasculine. Vorsh's growth, you'll see, was fairly consistent, with him achieving view counts of 5 to 6 million per month, essentially every month. But then you'll notice a sharp drop-off in February 2024, and the reason why can be traced back to an infamous live stream. Vorsh seems to be looking up men's fashion, and then he right-clicks on one of the images, and so opens up a folder on his desktop for his entire audience to see. A folder titled To Be Sorted, and a folder that contains swaths and waves and dozens of images of not safe for work pornography. Now, for very obvious reasons, I will not be able to show you the contents of this folder. It is quite literally pornography. However, imagine, if you will, blowjobs, general intercourse, and the like. And imagine it being between a woman and a horse. And that is some of what showed up on Vorsh's desktop. And to make matters even worse, there was lolly sprinkled in there too.
You can see this is an example of the kind of structure that I'm referring to.
Now, according to my research, I found a few comments that said that Vorsh has spoken about horses in this manner in the past, so the fact that horse porn showed up on his PC wasn't the most shocking thing to happen that day. The lolly, though, needed some answers, and within his response video, Vorsh said that he simply didn't know. He argued that art is up for interpretation, and when scanning it over for the brief moment before he saved it, he just didn't clock that these images were considered as lolly.
By the next day, I had learned from what felt like the entire goddamn internet that 2 of the images in my folder preview window were actually from a well-known lolicon artist, and therefore definitely intended to be lolly shit, which has to be the worst possible way to find out about that sort of thing. Now, obviously, the accusation here isn't just that I had those images saved, that part's true, not really an accusation, but also that I must have known that they were lolicon and saved them because they were lolicon. Now, the obvious and predictable, but nonetheless true response from me is that no, I didn't know that, and that must not have been the impression I got from those 2 drawings, because if I had gotten that impression, then I wouldn't have saved them, you know? I mean, drawings are abstractions, and art styles and body proportions vary massively, even for characters that are unambiguously adults. That doesn't mean lolly isn't a thing or a problem. I've bitched about it being a problem, like, a lot on stream. It just means that carelessly or inattentively failing to notice it isn't exactly impossible. Yeah, I know what some people are going to say, you know, no, you must have known. There's no way you didn't know. And like what am I going to do? Make a fucking evidentiary argument here? You know, like, I'm not putting up the images so we can argue about the pixels or the proportions or whatever. I know fully well that like 99.9% of people who have heard about this drama haven't seen the images, nor do I think those people should go looking for them, obviously. So it's pretty much entirely a take me at my word or don't kind of situation where people are free to lie about the drawings, or, as I've already seen on Twitter, just post other really bad looking shit and say that's what I had in my folder. There's not much I can do about it, right? It's all totally unfalsifiable, and people are going to make whatever assumptions and inferences they want to make. All I can really say is that I didn't notice the problem while saving the drawings, the same way a person could fail to notice any element of any drawing if they were careless or inattentive or distracted.
Clearly, this excuse was not going to work for many of his haters, and so after the infamous leaks, he was called not only a zoophile, but also a pedophile. Several large creators such as H3H3, Diesel Patches, and Sensitive Society would give their thoughts on the situation. However, a lot of people surprisingly stood by Vorsh. His response video was generally taken very well, actually having a fairly positive like-to-dislike ratio, all things considered. Just like Atriok before him, Vorsh would lose a substantial chunk of his audience in the initial backlash. However, over the next several months, he was able to win many of them back. Just like Atrioc before him, he's now performing just as well, or maybe even better than he was before the leaks. And just like Atrioc, this man went through perhaps one of the most embarrassing things to ever happen to anyone on the internet, and was still able to walk out the other side of it with his career intact. His reputation to outsiders is obviously damaged at best. You can't completely come back from something like this. To many people outside of his community, he will forever be known as the guy who's into horse porn and lolly. But now more than a year and a half since his controversy, Vorsh is still alive and kicking. Okay, little update. This is a bit of a coincidence, but ever since I wrote, recorded, and edited this video, Vorsh has yet again had allegations come his way. A woman known as Sarah Fields, a Republican state delegate, came out on Twitter this past week to share some screenshots of Vorsh allegedly inappropriately messaging a minor when he was 23 years old back in 2017. H3H3 has covered this on his channel within a video that has been seen by 400,000 and counting, and the tweet now has near enough 1 million views. If these screenshots are legitimate, then it doesn't look good for the folder situation, and people in the comment section are mentioning it once more. So maybe this is the final straw for Vorsh. We'll just have to wait and see. So we should be a little bit more than halfway through the video right now, and I'd just like to quickly ask you guys that if you haven't already, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We're fastly approaching 200,000 subscribers. It's an absolute dream, and with your support, I know that we can get there. Liking and subscribing takes 2 seconds, it costs nothing, and it would genuinely help me out. But if you're not totally convinced whether or not you should subscribe yet, then I'll let the rest of this video speak for itself. On to the quickest story we have. This next one will be discussing the largest name that we have today. Because believe it or not, iShowSpeed had an unfortunate search pop up while live, which was then spread throughout the internet. iShowSpeed is no stranger to having things pop up or out during his streams. If you can remember back to his infamous Chica incident, iShowMeat accidentally exposed himself in front of essentially the entire internet. Once you've gone through something like that, I feel like what we're about to discuss won't have as much of an impact on you, even if it is still very embarrassing. To cut to the chase, back in late 2023, while live, he began Googling something. After typing in H and O, the bar autofilled to how to have sex in cyberpunk. Given iShowSpeed's chokehold on the live streaming space, given his immense popularity and clout, this single frame or two was spotted and then shared by media outlets such as Sportskeeda and Drama Alert, who sounded the alarm bells on Twitter. Do keep in mind that Keemstar would have been 41 years old by this point, and he took the time out of his day to go onto Twitter and tell the masses, tell the world, ring the alarm bells out, that iShowSpeed, who was 18 at the time, had potentially been gooning to cyberpunk. Breaking news guys, our top story tonight, an 18-year-old male might have been wanking. Well, I for one am shocked and appalled. You will be getting a strongly worded letter, Mr. iShowSpeed. Won't somebody please think of the children? And also keep in mind that this does not mean that iShowSpeed actually got off to it. It's just that he searched up how to do it. Maybe he did that because he thought that it would be funny, or he just wanted to get his character laid. Who knows? The search does seem fairly incriminating upon first glance, but to be honest, it doesn't mean anything. That said, because it was reported on and seen by over 6 million people on Twitter, and because it fit the criteria of this video, I thought that I'd include it. Generally though, I think that this is nothing more than a fat, juicy nothing burger. But if we're discussing the fastest growing live streamers on the internet, then I would be remiss not to mention Sketch, who in the summer of 2024 had his life turned around after it was discovered that he had a history in participating in gay OnlyFans content. So Sketch is a very large live streamer with more than 1.6 million followers on Twitch. However, his blossoming online career suffered a great disturbance in July 2024, after a video by a channel called Pocketbook Philosophy was released into the ether. The video was titled The Real Sketch, The Untold Story of Jamie Ma. Within this video, Pocketbook revealed one of Sketch's deepest, darkest secrets, that being that 2 years prior, before he had started his streaming career, Sketch had participated in homosexual OnlyFans content. But here's the interesting thing. After this all blew up, there was a large portion of people who questioned, What was the problem? Sketch was a legal adult when he made these videos, and he consented to be in them. So therefore, what people were upset about was a grown man consensually participating in adult content. Many people were arguing that there wasn't actually anything wrong with this, and they were accusing anyone who was upset at this of being homophobic. On top of that, some people were mad at Pocketbook. You see, Pocketbook said that he felt comfortable revealing this information because being LGBT shouldn't be a problem in the modern day. But at the same time, many fans thought that Sketch had been outed for having been in sex work. They felt as though Sketch should have been the one to choose whether or not the public knew about his past. I found a Reddit thread that agreed with this statement. They felt that this just wasn't Pocketbook's place, and that this wasn't journalism. This felt like a needless attack that had detrimental effects to both Sketch's professional and personal life. I do agree that a lot of people that were negatively reacting to this were probably just being homophobic. That said, I feel as though no matter who it was, if there was someone in Twitch's elite, their 0.1%, that had any sort of pornographic video of them leaked, it would be the subject of intense online discourse and scrutiny. But obviously, if the content is LGBT, it's only naturally going to see more hate. Sketch would eventually respond to the murmurs, coming completely clean and saying this.
I did not have sexual relations with that man. I'm just kidding, I did. Yeah, that was me. I f***ed up. I won't do it again. I'm just kidding. Well, I am dead serious about not doing it again. That was a dark time. Rough time.
But as has been a fairly common theme in this video, Sketch would not see his career end because of the controversy. He's still a very popular creator. Albeit, if you take a look at his social blade, you'll notice that his growth was severely impacted. Maybe this is just a coincidence and it was always going to slow down, but after July 2024, Sketch couldn't continue his exponential growth. While this revelation didn't end his career, it certainly impacted it. Hey guys, how's it going? It's me again. I'm going to carry on popping up in between the videos just so there's a more natural flow between them and so I can introduce the next one. So for this next one I have for you guys, I released it just under a year ago and it performed horrifically. However, I've always stood by the fact that I rate this video and I think it's quite useful. This is what happens when fire interrupts a live stream.
Help me, chat! My house is burning down!
That's a quote along the lines of what KJ and Karen was saying after she almost saw her kitchen engulfed in flames during a cooking accident. This story takes us back to May of 2022, when a streamer of the name KJ and Karen was doing some cooking during her subathon. With just shy of 11.5 hours to go, she was frying up what seems to be some sort of meat, what a Sportskeeda article believes to be a brisket, and she seemingly had her food on too high of a heat as it's smoking up and the oil within the pan is spitting. She fans the smoke and takes the meat out of the pan, putting it on her plate. The pan then combusts, and what happens next is absolutely wild. So let's take a look at the clip. But before we do, I think I should clarify that KJ and Karen was fine. She didn't like burn to a crisp or anything. I'm not going to mention anyone in this video that got severely burned or seriously injured or anything, so you don't have to worry about any of that. With that said, let's roll the clip.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh.
Oh god. I don't know what to do, guys. I don't know what to do. Shit. Help! 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 I don't know what to do, you guys! Guys, I don't know what to do! Help! Help! Fuck! Fuck! I don't have a fire extinguisher! Fuck! Shit! 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 Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! I don't know what to do! Help! Help! I need a fire extinguisher! I need to put this out! I don't know what to do! Help me, please! I need help! Oh my god.
Now, I want to mention that I don't want to sit here and just point and laugh at KJ and Karen or anyone else I feature in this video too much. These are very stressful situations, and a lot of people just don't think clearly and rationally when just suddenly thrust into a high pressure scenario. That said, I think it would be worth doing a play-by-play. So fire emerges, she tries to blow it out I think, and then immediately tries to put this fire into the sink, where the flames go even more extreme for a split second. This is because what she has on her hands is a grease fire. And if this video could serve as a piece of advice to a single person watching it, never put water on a grease fire. Otherwise, this will happen.
Turn your stove off and punch the water on the oil. Now here's what happens when you put water on.
It might seem instinctual, we're taught through Pokemon that water beats fire, but in real life this only applies in certain situations. And in an oil fire, as I hope JK and Karen knows now, you do not use water.
Oh shit! Oh fuck!
Outside of not putting water on a grease fire, I have relatively little experience in fire safety, so I reached out to you guys and I actually had a firefighter reply. Jeff has apparently worked as a volunteer firefighter for 12 years in Pennsylvania, and he said that in this scenario she should have kept the pan where it was. Moving it about added more oxygen to the fire, and in this scenario you want to take oxygen away. He also said that because she moved it, it caused the oil to splash and a second fire to start. So it's best to keep the pan where it is in a situation like this. He then says that it would have been best to cover the pan with a lid, as this would remove oxygen from it, which is an essential part of the fire triangle. If you take just one of these away, whether that be the heat, fuel or oxygen, a fire cannot survive. In this instance, she didn't have a fire extinguisher, so Jeff says that she could have used baking soda instead. Eventually the fuel burnt out, causing the fire to die, but that's getting ahead of ourselves. Regardless, she then puts the pan back on the hob, without turning the heat off mind you, and starts yelling for help. Maybe she's yelling at her neighbours, or maybe a housemate for help? God, I hope she is. But it seems like she's asking her chat for help, which is an interesting move.
I don't know what to do, guys. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, you guys. Guys, I don't know what to do.
Like, chat cannot save you if your house is burning down, lady. Surely we've gone much too far as a society if people are begging their chat to come and save the day. I mean, even still, she didn't actually have to do anything. As you can clearly see in the video, her running away seemed to do more to save her than her own active actions. People on the internet reacted to this mishap, and while some were quite understanding that she probably just didn't know how to react, others laughed at her poor handling of the situation. For example, people on Reddit mocked her for swinging this burning pan full of oil around, with them saying that she got very lucky that she wasn't able to get the tap on, because if she did, it's very likely that the situation could have gotten even more dangerous. She's since put the clip on her channel for members only, but the clip went viral around the internet, with it getting around 4 million views on Insider Edition. It seems as though she might have mildly burnt herself too, but it could have been a lot worse. This was one instance where a streamer got very lucky that she didn't burn her house down. But not everyone in today's video will be quite so fortunate. Today, we'll be taking a look at several different streamers that had fire scares whilst live. As with KJ and Karen's incident, I'm not going to include any stories of people that got seriously hurt or died because of their fires, but there will be a few instances of some severe property damage and maybe some singed eyebrows. With that said, let's move past that baptism of fire and get onto our second story, that being of Daisuke. So this might be the most recognizable livestream fire of all time. It was definitely one of the first ones to spread around the internet like, well, wildfire. This happened back in 2015 and concerns a then 40-year-old Japanese man who goes by the name Daisuke. He was playing Minecraft when he decided to try and light a cigarette with his oil match lighter, but it soon set alight. Firefighter Jeff said this was likely because he overfilled the lighter. He starts panicking and throws the lit match into a bin bag containing what the Huffington Post describes as oil-soaked tissues. And of course, this in turn begins setting alight, but he doesn't realize. So now he's got 2 active flames. The bag behind him is burning up quickly, and he decides to move it to the corner of his room with the cardboard boxes. He even starts trying to fan or poke at the fire with some cardboard, which is perhaps one of the worst things you could possibly do in this situation. Jeff the firefighter said that in this instance, instead of trying to hit at the flames with some cardboard, he should have grabbed a big pot of water immediately. He then runs away for a bit and the flames get huge. He then returns with what seems to be a dog bowl full of water, which doesn't do too much. He tries to hit at the flames, which looks to do a little better, but the flames just won't die. Apparently, the chat is giving advice to douse the flames in wet clothes, which according to the top comment is good advice. Since this isn't an oil flame, the fuel is paper after all, this doesn't seem to be too bad of a move. If we take a look back at the fire triangle, water would be used to take away the heat. But in an instance unlike the KJ and Karen fire, where the chat in this case might have been of some assistance, it seems as though Daisuke didn't see these tips, probably too focused at the task at hand, despite unfortunately making the wrong moves at almost every turn along the way. According to Kotaku.com, Daisuke, alongside his 73-year-old mother, 68-year-old father, and 62-year-old relative, sustained injuries, but the extent of these injuries was unknown. Shortly after this went down, an interesting video related to the situation was uploaded to YouTube. This video was titled Japanese Letters, Japanese Fire Streamer's House, and in this video you can see the damage done to the property. The house is still standing, which is good, and you can see that from one angle it doesn't look like too much exterior damage was done, but on the other side though, yeah, some serious damage was definitely done. The comments on this video all seem to be written in kanji, and let's just say the Japanese were not too happy with him. Comments were saying they felt bad for his parents because they're now retirement age and were probably planning on retiring in that house. But they have a 40-year-old NEET of a son on their hands, aka not in education, employment or training, that burned their house down and made them a laughingstock because the entire world got to see it happen. The entire thing was spread around the internet, with the clip going viral. Even James Corden got in on the action, with several other high-profile news outlets also reporting on the story. The Daily Mail claimed that one person even died, but I don't trust their reliability, and I couldn't find the same claim anywhere else after extensively looking around on the internet. I could, however, find a local report about the incident that was put into a Japanese newspaper. According to a Reddit translation, the newspaper reads that the fire occurred around 2:45 PM on October 4th. It says that Daisuke was 40 and lived with 3 other people inside the 2-story home, including his father who was 68 and his mother who was 73, so just like the Kotaku document said. According to the Reddit translation, the identity of the 4th person isn't stated. It apparently says that 3 people were injured, suffering from burns and other unspecified injuries. I would assume that none of these injuries were fatal though, as I feel like this would have been mentioned if people had died. In total, about 30% of the home burned down, 37 square meters out of 125. Unfortunately, I couldn't find out anything more about Daisuke afterwards. When you look him up on Google, everything that comes up is just about the fire, so whether he continued streaming afterwards or just what happened to him, well, that's a mystery to me. But what happened to the next streamer we're set to talk about, known as Hi Hey It's Danny, is definitely no mystery, as her recent brush with a blaze has been the hot topic within online circles as of late. So let's take a look at it. Hi Hey It's Danny, or Danny as I'll be calling her for the purposes of this story, is a Kick streamer with roughly 7,000 followers as of the time I record this video. But a few weeks back, her name was thrust into the headlines after she had a fire scare during a live stream. Now, I should warn you that Danny is a Kick streamer that describes herself as the ultimate streaming companion for all things fun and flirty. which is why I take it that she's cooking whilst in lingerie and why her sub goal is 69. That's not exactly too relevant to the story, but I think it's good context to why she appears half naked. With that said, let's take a look at what happened.
Bro, what the f is that?
Wait!
That shit is smoking so much.
Oh my god, Tanner's on fire! It's on fire!
Bro.
What do I do?
Turn it off! What the f?
What do I do?
Bro, turn
what
it
do I
off! Turn it off!
do? Tanner, hurry up! Tanner!
Turn it off!
Tanner! Turn it off!
I don't know what to do!
Oh my god!
Grab the
Tanner! Grab that! Tanner!
What?
Oh my god, Tanner!
What is it?
Tanner!
What is it?
Oh my god, Tanner! Tanner!
I don't know what it is!
Grab the extinguisher! Tanner!
So doing another play-by-play, first of all, whatever she's cooking is smoking way too much. Danny, you need to turn the heat down. Of course, then it catches a light, and the number one thing that she does is just stand there and panic, almost reminiscent of Spencer from iCarly.
Oh my god, Tanner's on fire! It's on fire!
Bro.
What do I do? Oh my god, it's on fire!
Then a person that I assume is her boyfriend comes over, and they are reacting much too slowly. To me, it looks like she's been frozen by fear. She's been thrust into this high pressure scenario in an instant, and the flames are growing larger with each passing second. The guy doesn't know what to do either, and it's later revealed that he doesn't know how to turn the stove off. He keeps telling her to turn it off because he doesn't know where the button is.
I don't know what it is!
Grab the extinguisher!
If I'm not mistaken in saying, it turns out to be behind the flame on the wall, which seems to be a very poor design choice for this exact reason. In the end, he throws the pan off the stove, and again, I want to add that I'm no fire expert, but especially with those wooden cabinets, I feel as though the pair were quite lucky that it didn't start spreading. Speaking of the experts though, our firefighter friend Jeff said that this incident should have been handled similarly to our first. So once again, cover it with a lid to take away the oxygen. Don't, under any circumstances, use water, and if you don't have a fire extinguisher, use baking soda. Danny would eventually start fanning the smoke away, then she got changed into a jumper, and then, and I kid you not, literally 20 minutes after the fire scare, they started reacting to the clip.
Turn it off!
Danny's stream would then proceed to last another 5 hours. This clip then caught the attention of Moist Critical, who, within a video that has now been seen almost 2 million times, had this to say.
Yesterday a streamer set her kitchen on fire, and it was dangerously close to just becoming like a crematorium.
Danny has been severely roasted ever since, with her tweeting out a post saying, "Y'all act like it was your kitchen I set on fire." And of course, people responded to this with hate and mockery. It's likely that Danny didn't take the situation too seriously though, because she later tweeted out that she's planning to sell the outfit that she wore during the video. I really hope that means the outfit she changed into afterwards, but unfortunately my better sense is telling me that's not the case. But Danny definitely counts as yet another creator that played with fire. We're getting a bit darker now, with the next creator we're set to talk about losing a lot to the flames. Let's discuss the house fire of Gimpy God. So Gimpy God, real name Lance Carr, is a streamer that is quadriplegic due to being born with muscular dystrophy. And back during the tail end of 2021, he lost almost everything after a fire started in his house while he was live on Twitch. He was playing Diablo 2 Resurrected while it happened, and as the broadcast continued, you could see the room begin to fill with smoke. Of all the fires that featured within this video, you could argue that this one was perhaps the most tragic, as this one did some serious damage to essentially everything that Gimpy God owned. Gimpy God would post a picture of the damage on Twitter, and as you can see, the house is absolutely destroyed. It's a skeleton comprised of smouldering ash. However, that isn't even the worst of it. You would imagine that Gimpy God's family would have some sort of insurance to help them out, and while they did, the insurance company were really trying to pinch at pennies in what's frankly a disgusting twist of fate. This fire was so out of control that not only did it burn their house down to ash, soot and rubble, but it also destroyed their wheelchair accessible car. For someone like Gimpy God, having a wheelchair-accessible vehicle is extremely important for obvious reasons. But because their car was in the driveway and not technically in the garage, the insurance company refused to pay for it. It was a few feet away from technically being inside the property, so it didn't count, despite being completely destroyed and unusable. For the next year, Lance and his family would be homeless, being in and out of hospitals and hotels, with Lance reportedly not being able to properly bathe in this time. A tremendous amount of the facilities that they had to make Lance's life as high quality as possible was destroyed, and replacing it was extremely expensive, with the insurance allegedly not financing that either, making all of this an incredibly sad story. But flash forward to October 2022, and Moist Critical will cover the story on his channel.
The point is, there's been a lot of very sad moments broadcast on Twitch, but what I want to talk to you about today is by far one of the saddest. This is the story of a streamer named Gimpy God.
In this video that now has the best part of 2 million views, Charlie would expose Lance's story to the masses and announce that he was doing a charity stream in support of him.
I'm doing a bit of a charity stream fundraiser to help Gimpy God and his family so they can hopefully afford the adaptive equipment again and improve Lance's quality of life.
And this stream would go down extremely well, with Moist Critical making a video 2 weeks later titled "You Deserve This," and this video would be seen more than 2.5 million times. Within it, Charlie revealed that the stream had made a significant impact and that they had achieved their goal, with Charlie singing his praises for the community coming together to help Lance out.
So on stream, the total that was raised by the community was $47,000. Which to me is mind-blowing, because this wasn't like a pre-announced stream or anything. Like, we just did it on a random day and a lot of people showed up to support, and it means the world to me and obviously to the entire Carr family.
He went on to reveal that Lance had given him updates and had confirmed that not only was the family able to move back into a house, but they could now also afford a $30,000 lift that allowed Lance to properly wash himself. On top of the $46,000 raised via Charlie's stream, Lance had also created a GoFundMe that was able to raise a further $35,000, seemingly making enough so that Lance could shut off donations. Flash forward to today, and it seems as though life is fortunately back to normal for Lance. He's back to streaming on his Twitch, he's still active on Twitter, and most recently uploaded a video to YouTube back in July. And so, while this was perhaps one of the most tragic fires that occurred during a Livestreamer's broadcast, there was a silver lining, with many people on the internet coming together and donating towards a very worthy cause, helping Lance and his family out in their hour of need. However, while Gimpy God's story was very well known to the public because of Moist Critical's videos and subsequent stream, the next streamer we're set to talk about, well, his story was a lot less known, and that's despite it being a very similar incident. This was the unfortunate fire of Radish Boy. So Radish Boy is a streamer with a little more than 10,000 followers on Twitch that experienced tragedy back in early 2022 after a fire started within his house. One that, as you might expect because of the theme of this video, began while he was live. At the time, he was streaming old school RuneScape. Radish had a pregnant wife and 3 kids in the house, and fortunately they were all able to make it out with their lives intact. If you're interested in finding out the source of the fire, according to Radish, it started because of a malfunctioning coffee pot. The house, however, was unlivable. Radish would post this picture onto Twitter, confirming that the house was ruined. In response, it seems as though a lot of people within the old school RuneScape community gave Radish Boy their unwavering support, with Radish stating on Twitter that he had been receiving an unbelievable amount of help. A GoFundMe would be created in order to help crowdfund some money for him, with more than 350 people coming together to give him their financial support. In total, more than $18,500 was raised to help Radish, which would at least cushion the financial hit that he would have taken due to this unfortunate situation. Apparently, the fundraiser was meant to help Radish before insurance stepped in, with money raised going towards necessities such as food, clothing, accommodation, and items for the kids. However, Radish's story is not quite as much of an uplifting one as compared to, say, Lance. Radish also seems to have had a lot of personal struggles ever since the fire, but it looks like he has the iron will to carry on. creating several videos in which he has since reflected on this tragedy. I can't sit here and say that I've watched him for years prior to making this video, but I thought it would be a good idea to link both his and Gimpy God's channels down in the description in case anyone who's watching this might want to check them out. Even if these incidents are years old, it's never too late to support them. So go check them out after this video if you want. But in the meantime, let's take a look at what some people have called a fire in a cake factory. Eddie Baker 420 is a Twitch streamer with almost 2,500 followers on the platform. It also appears as though Eddie Baker is some sort of a famous rapper, as his Spotify links to a suspended Twitter account that has the same username, Eddie Baker 420. And he's being included in this video for an extremely bizarre series of events that occurred back in January 2022. And side note, if you're keeping track, this is the third streamer who I've mentioned whose fire scare went down in the first half of 2022. Don't ask me why this happened, I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but for whatever reason, in 2022, house fires were being caught on live streams 24/7. Back on topic though, Eddie was playing Star Trek Online when, for whatever reason, his couch began to spontaneously combust.
Oh! What the fuck? Hold on. Ah! My couch is burning.
Now, I can't say for certain just how this fire started because there weren't many articles written about this incident, and one of the only ones that was, a Sportskeeda article, also wrote that it was unclear how the fire began. The only theory I found came from Twitter, where someone said that it could have been due to some faulty wiring within the reclining couch. The fire seems internal, it looks like something happened within the couch. Eddie eventually flips the couch, showing just how widespread the fire was becoming, and then tries to take it out with some water. But when that doesn't work, he gets out a fire extinguisher, and while this does for the most part cut out our viewing of what happened afterwards, it also seemed to do the trick, as you can just about make out the flipped couch at the end of the clip, and by then, the flame is out. Firefighter Jeff said that it was good that Eddie reacted right away, but provided the source of the fire was the wiring, he should have unplugged the couch immediately. And instead of trying to put it out with water, he should have gone for the fire extinguisher right away. He did commend Eddie, however, for having a fire extinguisher in the first place. Unfortunately, this clip for the most part has been memed online, mostly because Eddie had his butt crack showing when this all went down. So most of the people commenting on this were laughing at the clip. That said, Eddie seems to have not been too fazed by this fire scare, with him making the clip not only visible on his Twitch account, but also uploading the clip to his Facebook. So despite this almost being a traumatic moment for him, it's one that he must view as entertaining content. Now onto a segment of its own. I couldn't discuss live streamers without talking about my favourite flavour, VTubers. These are people that live stream with motion captured anime avatars, and they get up to zany, wacky hijinks to say the least. These guys can be very weird, and if you don't believe me, just wait. I have made a couple of videos on them now, so let me show you the worst live streaming VTubers on the internet.
Ooh, I'm going to do drugs, get frisky with my manager, and form a reverse harem. Kawaii!
That's something that could have been thought by a VTuber named Riro Ron, who in late 2023 was exposed as an absolute deviant after her VTubing agency came out to announce her termination from their service within a post that has received 6.9 million views. The announcement of her termination sent shockwaves throughout the VTubing community simply because the alleged extent of what this seemingly innocent VTuber was doing. Don't allow her appearance to deceive you, my dear viewer. This person is an absolute freak. Idol came out to say that on the 28th of November 2023, they had terminated Riro Ron's contract. The reason being that she had violated her contract by engaging in activities that were both harmful and dangerous to her, as well as the company. Those activities included, but were not limited to, misuse of controlled substances while live, soliciting fans while live for private offline meetings, accepting gifts from fans in person worth thousands of dollars, and conducting a secret relationship with a member of the Idol management team. Let me reiterate, this person is doing drugs. This person is meeting up with fans, taking their gifts and their money, and sneaking around with her company's management. The VTubing community went into a spin because of this. Keep in mind that Riro had only joined her agency roughly 9 months prior. However, some sort of inner demon must have possessed her to go right off the deep end, because somewhere along the way she decides to form a harem. I'm not joking, form a harem and outline the rules of how this was going to go down. This is a pretty well-known story in the VTuber world, but I know that a lot of my audience really isn't clued up in this sort of area. Let me say that as far as I know, as far as the evidence has been placed in front of me, this is 100% legitimate. Riro's gonna say it's not, but as of what we've seen so far, it seems very likely that this is not faked. Her harem requirements were as followed. No minors. Love the Riro. Don't get jealous, but Riro can get jealous. Riro is Mina no Adairu for my Stardusts. Whatever the fuck that means. Be respectful and tactful with Riro. Riro chooses if some wish comes true or do something mild instead. Keep in mind that Riro, if I'm not mistaken, speaks Japanese as her first language. At the very least, it's not English. But it seems as though she's saying that she gets to choose how hard they go at it in the bedroom on the scale from mild to wish comes true. You need to be familiar with Riro. And lastly, the harem project, so she calls it the harem project, just getting it out there, is top secret. So you shouldn't tell other Stardusts. These are some pretty strict rules, so what do you get out of it? Well, you get to meet up with her, and more. This is just one of the many different pieces of evidence against Riro. There is an entire file filled with more than a dozen clips of her making the rules for this harem, and so just to fill you in the best I can, I think I'll play a few of those clips for you now.
You want to meet the riddle, and I want you to. And I want you to. Well, think about that then. Maybe it is a possibility. Even though it sounds very insane. It sounds very insane. But, I don't know, speaking to you makes it sound less insane. Because if you want to be part of the harem specifically, that means you would see me even without my alien scan, right? You would have to see me disguised as a human. As my alter ego. Perks the possibility to meet up with not little. Would you like to meet me? Would you like to meet me and perhaps even try me? Doesn't have to be like that. Yeah, or it can be a date or just a walk in the park, as you prefer. I can just spend a nice evening together. No minors. No minors in the harem. No minors. This is very important. No minors. I wonder if I'm the only girl from Idol who can pull up something like this.
So I think that it's fairly easy to say that she was caught red-handed. This folder is surely the smoking gun. And so it appears as though she went through with this harem formation based upon Idol's post and was given some expensive presents when she met up with these viewers. However, as the post also says, that was not the full extent of her devious behaviour. She also had a relationship with someone who worked in Idol's management. This person is thought to be the company's lead talent manager, who's probably the last person you should be boning on the side, but Riroron seemed to make it her personal mission to go off the rails in the most unhinged way she possibly could. She also was accused of doing drugs on stream, but as far as I could find, these were only sleeping pills, so it wasn't like she was just snorting lines whilst live. That said, she would later respond to the allegations on her own Twitter account, where she would say that she had nothing to apologise for, even though the evidence is fairly stacked against her, and even she herself would post this meme. I didn't. Totally would though. Ooh. I don't think that would help her case. But things don't stop there. You might notice that this account that she posted on was not Riroron, and that's because this is Kyoresu, otherwise known as Riroron, before she signed for Idol. Kyoresu's channel is a lot more music related and has almost 500,000 subscribers. In the aftermath of getting let go from Idol, she has since returned to Kyoresu after taking a year's hiatus and has started posting once more. And I have an exclusive update for you guys because everyone that made videos about this incident right after it happened didn't include this development because this is relatively recent. A few weeks ago, she uploaded her first video in about a year. So let's take a look at what she's had to say since her comeback.
Imagine getting accused of every single internet sim from one day to another. Just randomly opening your socials and there you are, absolutely destroyed by every snowflake out there. But it's fine, I can just restart. It's not the first time I'm doing it anyway, right? Restart!
That's pretty wild, but the song gets even crazier. Take a close listen to some of the lyrics right now.
Internet is full of fake news, but don't let skeezers give up. So let's let this show entertain us. Internet is full of fake news, but don't let skeezers give up. So let's let this show entertain us.
I won't lie though, this music video slaps. Credit where it's due. The entire thing seems to be about her termination, which I actually think is quite a smart move. She seems to assert within this music video that everything that happened was taken out of context, or at the very least wasn't the whole truth. Apparently she signed an NDA, so she can't discuss what happened. Whether or not you believe her, I'd love to find out the truth of this. So that's where we are today. Riro is trying to launch a comeback as Kyoresu, announcing that she'll start streaming soon. That manager might just be sacked for good, and the general audience have had a good laugh at just how absurd it is that this pink cutesy anime girl has been accused of living this drugged up rockstar harem lifestyle. What an insane story. But of course, that's just one of the many stories I have for you today. Coming up is a game of Smash or Pass that ended in death threats and a racially segregated VTuber award show. But before we get into that, let's talk about a VTuber who was roasted by the entirety of Twitter after allegedly body shaming a Twitch streamer for showing too much skin. This story can be traced back to just shy of a year ago and began with a creator called Eurochan who posted this. I woke up and found someone on Twitch. I mean, wow, is this lewd even allowed on Twitch? And as I'm sure you'll see throughout the rest of this video, oftentimes the most simple of tweets can end in disaster. Initially, a lot of people were joining in on the joke. They were cracking up, making wiseacre remarks about how this woman's breasts look more like two inflatable beach balls than boobs. But very soon, people went in to defend the streamer. More than 2 million views later, and a lot of people who saw this tweet decided to unsheath their sword and declare war on Eurochan, who was accused of body shaming her.
Chat, this chick was like, is this allowed on Twitch? And was laughing at every comment that was like body shaming this chick because she had big titties.
Oh yeah, there was a chat. I don't know if you've seen Techie show this one girl on Twitch. She's just a girl who plays like MMOs all the time, and her boobs are ginormous, and she just sits there and plays games. And
she's really sweet.
And she's
really nice.
She's very fucking kind. And so this one VTuber was like, Wow, I can't believe I opened Twitch and this is the first thing I saw. That's crazy.
You see, this creator, known online as SKUwu, is just like that. The people mad at this tweet were under the impression that this appears to be her natural form, and therefore a lot of critics had a massive problem with Yura-chan because physical features can't be changed and therefore shouldn't be the subject of mockery. Whether or not this is natural, I don't really want to speculate, I'm just giving you guys the arguments for and against. I should also mention that this is very different to a VTuber because SK, barring any surgery, is stuck with her form. A VTuber avatar, on the other hand, is custom made. It's a lot easier to redesign them. Therefore, what might be acceptable for SKUwu would not be acceptable for a VTuber avatar. People started by saying that Yura-chan should just get back to streaming, showing a screenshot of her Twitch account. There are only a handful of replies that have been saved from this viral tweet, and these showed that some of the people that were discussing it were in fact defending Yura-chan, claiming that SK's cleavage was excessive. Then things got even worse, as Yura-chan decided to start liking the replies that agreed with her. She liked this tweet by Sage the Witch Dragon, which read, "I like big boob, but not basketball sized." And this isn't even to mention that Yura-chan wasn't exactly the most modest creator either. And she was also posted several times on Yura-chan's Twitter with a mouth open filled with saliva, which seems to be quite suggestive. For that reason, a lot of people had a field day in making assertions that this was hypocrisy at its finest, and that Yura-chan was merely jealous of SK.
And bitch, like, you're just fucking mad that you don't... Shut up. Shut up.
Let's be real. Let's be real. Not every VTuber look like their model, and she just mad.
She's just mad, bro. Oh my god, I had to stop myself from being rude, but fuck, dude. So rude. That girl is just vibing and living her life, man.
Flash forward till today, and she's nowhere to be seen. It appears as though this backlash was too much for Yura-chan, and she practically vanished from the internet. Don't get me wrong, it's not like they were a very famous VTuber. The screenshot of their channel showed that they had only amassed 377 followers, but in my research, I discovered her Linktree and found that her Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch are now all deactivated. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the stakes that we're dealing with. And speaking of ladies and gentlemen, let's discuss the identity of them in this next story. If you've witnessed enough people talk about VTubers, there's a very real possibility that somewhere along the lines you would have heard someone say something like, "Oh, don't you know they're all just guys with voice changers?" And while they might have a point, so far there have been very few instances in which a female VTuber was discovered to be voiced by a dude. That said, it's not out of the realms of possibility. It's apparently happened before, like when this Chinese VTuber allegedly dumbfounded this other guy. I found this on 9gag, and the text within this video is Mandarin, so if anyone can read Mandarin, perhaps they could clue us up as to whether this is legitimate and what it says, but this guy was apparently arrested for scamming people as a VTuber. Regardless, back in 2018, an infamous gender reveal within the VTuber community would happen after a creator called NoraCat would suffer a glitch that would shock the VTuber world. Mr. NoraCat was caught dead to rights. To this very day, his legacy to many people is that guy who pretended to be a girl. And a lot of people thought that because he sounds like this.
NoraCat は創作です。アニメや小説と同じように、キャラクターの性格や動きや喋り方などを作者が考えています。すべて創作であり、実在しません。
However, there's actually a little bit more to this story than first meets the eye. First of all, it might be news to you, but there's actually a word for a man who pretends to be a woman through VTubing, and that's babaniku. So NoraCat was a babaniku. While researching this, I stumbled across a video made by a creator called Venendar, who claimed that NoraCat was actually a known babaniku, so when his true identity was revealed to the web, his own fans really didn't seem to care. That said, he does claim to be a girl on Twitter, But I guess that you could make the argument that whoever this guy is behind the scenes, Nora Cat is a character, and the character is female. But whatever the case, as it turns out, it was not his audience, but in fact other people who were clowning on him for this revelation. He even addressed English speakers about that in the clip I showed you before. To this very day, the revelation that Nora Cat was a man is probably the most well-known incident of a Babaniku that I could find online, but I'm very sure that it won't be the last. And I'm sure that won't be the last story I have for you today. We still have plenty to discuss. But if you're enjoying this, I'd love to ask you to subscribe if you haven't already. We're so close to 150,000 subscribers, and it would mean the world to me, so please do hit that big red button. Also, if you like what I have to say, check out my Twitter and Instagram, both of them are linked in the description. But in the meantime, if you want more, I'll give you more. You know, there's little better in this world than receiving a hard-fought award for your good work. Award ceremonies often look vapid and self-indulgent on the outside, but if you're going for a prize, they can mean everything. For our next story, we're going to discuss a group of people who some think have been held back from winning any VTuber awards. Over the past decade or so, there's been a severe increase of award shows dedicated towards content creators. From the Streamer Awards to the Streamies, it makes sense that within an industry as large as content creation, that there would be plenty of awards to go around. Except to me, apparently. Unless there's an award for most prepubescent mustache, I think I'm going to go empty-handed for the next few years. But controversy hit the internet a few months ago now for an award show that some people thought was stoking online racial tensions. That being the Black VTuber Awards, a show announced in early February 2024. As you might be able to guess from its name, this is an award show for Black VTubers, and only Black VTubers. No other races are allowed to participate. And as you might expect, that upset a lot of people who heard the news. Instantly, this ceremony was the subject of criticism, with people saying that this was an award show built on segregation. The argument being that if there was any other award show that gave out awards exclusively to people of a particular race, some people would possibly call it racist. Defenders of the Black VTuber Awards said that the reason why this award show had to exist was because Black VTubers don't seem to be on a level playing field compared to VTubers of other races. Based upon my research within the VTuber community, it does seem to be a little bit more overtly restrictive against Black creators. There have been plenty of videos made describing how it's hard to be a Black VTuber, and how sometimes Black creators can't even get an avatar made that would match their skin tone. As an outsider to this community, I couldn't even name you a single Black VTuber. That said, there's no laws or limitations put in place that would prohibit a Black person from becoming a VTuber. And you have to ask the question, is a racially segregated award show really the best way to give these Black creators their flowers? I'm going to be honest, I think that the Black VTuber Awards have been deleting replies because I can see a lot of people complaining about the hate the show is getting, but very few posts in the replies actually complaining about it. Also, I've seen screenshots like this, Donnie Darko 03 nominating this character for the award, and call me a conspiracy theorist, but I have a sneaky suspicion that is not her name. That said, there was one person who was pretty active in the replies, a VTuber called Navi. He has just shy of 5,000 subscribers on YouTube and describes himself as a demonic catboy VTuber. Navi was adamantly against this award show, making the point that Black VTubers are not excluded from other award shows for the craft. He said that people wanted to be different and quirky so bad, comparing this award show to a 1960s segregated event. Then Navi did something absolutely wild. To show the contradictory nature of the Black VTuber Awards, Navi decided to make a post announcing the White VTuber Awards. It appears as though people were not happy with this, because shortly after these events, another VTuber called Alira made a video calling Navi's post an extremely racist joke.
You really went out of your way to make this horribly racist joke and be like, oh no, but everybody else is racist. This is gross. The fact that they do not have an understanding of why this is racist is what is the scariest thing to me.
There may have been some other crazy replies, but as I said, I have an inkling that a lot of these were deleted shortly after. So was this a way to highlight and applaud black VTubers for their work, or a regressive and needlessly divisive call for self-imposed segregation? I'll let you be the judge of that as we move on to our next story. That story being of a woman who was the judge, jury and executioner in a game of Smash or Pass that led to one of the largest, most needless kerfuffles in VTubing history. Smash or Pass is a simple game. You're given a list of people, and all you do is say smash or pass. It's kind of like a theoretical Tinder. Most of the time when you do a smash or pass, this is between friends, and the people that are being smashed or passed on are not present. Oftentimes they're fictional or celebrities, maybe classmates or co-workers, but doing smash or pass to someone's face would be pretty brutal. However, in the advent of live streaming, if you're one of these celebrities, especially if you're an internet celebrity, there's a fair chance that you'd see someone's reaction to you in a smash or pass. YouTuber or streamer smash or passes are pretty common, but in October 2023, one of them would go much too far. Meet Cowbell Chaos VT. She's a digital artist, graphic designer, sassy short stack, pot smoker, voice actor and chaos bringer, who late last year would go in hard on another VTuber's character design and created much a hullabaloo about nothing. This is Dragonspit, who was the subject of a smash or pass between Cowbell Chaos, another VTuber called Freya Allmother, and several of their friends. And this is where things became unhinged because of Cowbell Chaos's extremely adverse reaction to seeing Dragonspit.
What dragon women are supposed to look like in the VTuber community. Just pass. Pass. Mm-mm. I want scales. I want muscles. I want flat chests because dragons don't have tits. And I want a big ass on them and a long ass tail with wings. And I want them to breathe fire and drag me into their cave. I don't want some prissy palace bitch looking at me going, you must kiss the royal fingies if you want to even touch the royal wings. No, bitch, get the fuck out of here. You're not a dragon. You're just cosplaying as one. Fuck off.
Tantrum. This clip was treated like the end of days. It seemed like the rapture was coming for us, that we were all about to be sent to eternal damnation, that Satan himself was walking among us. On Twitter anyways. Dragonspit came out to address it and attached the clip of their roast, which gained 1.6 million views. Dragonspit said, "Smash or pass streams are fun, and I don't actually care about being passed on at all. It's all for fun and for seeing other VTubers. The issue is calling someone a prissy bitch when they know nothing about that VTuber's personality or lore. Also, it's his rude to say, if she gets upset when people don't want to smash her character, then you need to go touch grass. This person and the others were also practically insulting my design and the work that my amazing artist put in by saying that it looked copy and pasted, and like a generic e-girl, and that e-girls were f***ing boring. Please remember that there is a person behind every model, and those people do have feelings. I didn't join to be insulted, I was hoping to see a fun time. Don't be like this. Especially when on a live stream with the person watching. Thank you for coming to my spit talk." And this was when things got taken up a notch, because while some people involved in this stream apologised, for example, Freya Allmother came out to take accountability, saying that she felt bad for this relentless bullying, the main culprit on the other hand, Cowbell Chaos, dug her heels in and defended her actions. She said that though she's sorry that Dragonspit felt bad, her opinion as a stranger shouldn't matter. And after being called out for what seemed to be an apathetic response, she steered into the skid even further, saying that the apology was only for Dragonspit to accept, and nobody else. And this is when things became cuckoo bananas, because Cowbell and a few of her friends from the original stream, not all of them, you'll notice it's only about half of them, would come out in a follow-up stream to address the controversy, saying this.
Yeah, I did call her a prissy bitch. Because she looks like a prissy bitch. I'm sorry that my blunt language is so offensive.
Oh my god, shame on you, Cowbell. Shame.
And it was also cuckoo bananas because Cowbell then claims that she received death threats, she had people telling her to unalive herself, she had slurs made against her, apparently she even had people threatening her family, and that is absolutely wild. But the story doesn't stop there. Cowbell seemed to blame Dragonspit for the actions of her fans here, despite the fact that Dragonspit never told her fans to go out and harass Cowbell, nor can we be sure that the haters were actually Dragonspit fans. Some of these people might have just been there for the dogpile, because some VTuber fans are apparently just like that. Cowbell went on a long Twitter tirade after this, writing up literally dozens of posts. Cowbell was saying that her opinion was only that, and since an apology had already been given, all of the people that were calling her out had no leg to stand on, because this was only between Dragonspit and herself. Dragonspit would then come out to tell people to stop sending Cowbell threats and telling her to unalive herself, and though you would think that that would be where it would end, then things got even weirder. It seems as though Cowbell then tried to deny that anything ever happened, calling this a bit of a conspiracy and saying that the clip had actually been altered, claiming that they were saying this about someone else. She asserted that the entire thing had been completely taken out of context. Now, it seemed unlikely, but stranger things have happened. This allegation that the clip was taken out of context might have been her escape rope, her get out of jail free card, her skeleton key to salvage her reputation. But no. She was then blindsided by Freya, who came out to clarify that no, this clip had not been altered in any way, pleading with Cowbell to stop making her look bad. After this, the jig was well and truly up. She had been foiled by her friend and was now known to many people as not only a bully, but also a liar. What started with mindless words ended in lies, deceit, controversy, conspiracy, vitriolic attacks, death threats, and tears. I hope you guys enjoyed the VTuber segment of this video, but now you're back with me, your host, and I think that it's time that we reopen an old dusty book, the Book of the Band. Coming up is a video that was recorded in this very room 3 years ago now, which I cannot believe. It was the 3rd episode of my Book of the Band series, which for anyone who is new to the channel, the Book of the Band was an old series of mine where I would cover band users of various social media platforms, such as YouTube, Reddit, and Twitch. So with that said, let's discuss the band live streamers of Twitch.com. I think that out of all the video sharing platforms, Twitch is the most notorious for throwing out bans willy-nilly, and these usually come in the form of temporary suspensions, but every now and then they throw the book in and give creators permanent bans. In this video, we're doing a deep dive into Twitch lore to uncover some of the most interesting, weird, and controversial reasons why various Twitch streamers have been banned. And this is definitely not because I'm planning to start streaming come the end of September, and therefore you should totally follow me on my Twitch to see my live streams as well as my other social medias. With that said, let's get into things. And I think you guys would have my head on a platter if I didn't talk about the infamous Dr. Disrespect. The video just wouldn't be the same if I didn't touch on the most famous permanent banning of all time. Now, I was never a very big Dr. Disrespect fan, so I took to the internet to try and find out why he was given the boot. And that's when I found this answer from Steve Garcia, profile picture of a pancake, so you already know that this is going to be a reputable source. And he said this:
Doc got what he deserved for showing his feet on stream. I saw several instances of him being barefoot in clips I saw on YouTube, and I was really disgusted, especially when I saw that clip of him showing his left sole for a few seconds while reacting to another clip. First, Beam is a fucking 39-year-old. Second, his jock outfit makes him look uglier with the mustache and wig, but I've never watched his streams nor reported him. I hate seeing adults and ugly-looking individuals barefoot. Alinity and XQC deserve permabans for the same reason.
So Pancake Garcia just murdered this dude, but he was wrong. His crusty feet weren't the actual reason he was banned. Probably. And I say probably because the real reason is just shrouded in mystery. So we have to take things back to the first half of 2020 because this is where our story begins. Dr. Disrespect signed a deal with Twitch to keep him on the platform for a few years. Apparently this deal was worth 8 figures. And it was immediately thrown into the flames of hell as he was then banned for violating community guidelines on the 26th of June. So he was banned, but initially nobody, not even Dr. Disrespect, knew why. It was about a year later in August 2021 when he finally gave people an update on the situation, saying that he now knew why he was given the ban and had known for several months. And the reason was just cause to sue the shit out of Twitch for damages. Due to the incident, Disrespect's income was allegedly slashed by about 75%. He wasn't allowed to stream with the same people anymore due to him now being on YouTube. He lost out on connections and brand deals, and so he took them to court. With the former Twitch streamer coming out in March of this year to state that while no side admitted any wrongdoings, the legal battle was over, leaving it at that. I really wish that I could go more into detail, but as with a lot of things in Dr. Disrespect's life, the entire thing was just shrouded in mystery. Perhaps for legal reasons more than anything else, but it has to be said that this entire ordeal must have been a very tough pill to swallow for the doctor. I think we should stick on the topic of lawsuits for our next story, and things are about to get really juicy. We're about to talk about the streamer known as Phantom Lord. And I'll be honest, of all the people featured in this video, I kind of feel like Phantom Lord is the least likely to come back to Twitch. He and the company have some serious beef together. So let's take things back to the year 2016, a nostalgic time for sure. Before hundreds and thousands of online scandals had taken place, people started to notice online gambling. It was the idea that if you pay a video game a bit of money, you'll have a chance of potentially getting a really good character, skin, weapon, or advantage, or you might get nothing. I'll be honest, I fell hard for FIFA microtransactions when I was 14. I didn't know any better. And essentially these video games were gambling for under 18s, but this wasn't really known, at least not at mainstream level. Well, this guy, Phantom Lord, was a bit of a naughty boy because he was promoting a bit of online gambling to his audience. He was a CSGO streamer, and for this reason, he was promoting a site called CSGO Shuffle, which by looking at it on the Wayback Machine seemed literally just like a gambling site. Here's the thing, and it might be a bit of a surprise to you though, as it turns out, it's generally accepted that Phantom Lord had a connection to the site that he was promoting. He had a bit of skin in the game. Whether that be financial incentives to promote it or if he actually owned it, we've never been told, but it's agreed that he has had ties to CSGO Shuffle. I believe that this was never disclosed with his audience, and so Twitch then went and permabanned him from their site. But here's where things take a sharp left turn, because by doing so, they actually broke their own contract with him. It's said that they had to give him 30 days notice if they were going to ban him. They gave him 0. And so Phantom Lord did the American thing, and he took them to court to sue the living shit out of them. It would take 3 years for a verdict to come out of this trial, and despite what you might think, he actually won against the company. Kind of. He and his team initially asked for between $15 and $100 million in damages, soon going down to $12 million, and then soon back up to $63 million. And so with such a high asking price, what did he actually walk away with in the end? Well, he actually got $20,000. A far cry away from the $63 million he wanted, but a win nonetheless. Since the events, Phantom Lord has been less frequent in online spaces, but every time he feels as though someone's been unjustly treated by Twitch, he often offers to get his legal team to help out, with Twitch forevermore being his mortal enemy. So a former president of the United States is not the kind of guy that you would assume might get banned on Twitch for some reason, right? Our next story is probably one of the weirdest, if not the weirdest, in this entire video, and that's saying something. So apparently Donald Trump has been permanently banned off Twitch. And I know it sounds like I'm pulling your leg, but according to several reputable online sources such as The Verge, Forbes, TechCrunch, and many more, they reported back in January 2021, just as he was handing power over to Joe Biden, that Twitch had decided that Donald Trump was no longer allowed on the platform. I didn't even know that he had a Twitch account. I don't think he was going live very often. Now, according to a White House leak, I've actually received insider information. And that was that in response to this, Donald Trump, when he found out, replied, "Oh man, that's totally not POG." Of course, the true reason behind his banning was the 2021 Capitol attacks, where thousands of people stormed the US Capitol buildings to try and stop the transition of power between Trump and Biden. As of a result of these events, in which many people believe were spurred on by the former president, he was essentially blacklisted from every major social media site, with his Twitter account more famously being permanently removed. Twitch had the same idea though and said that this was the reason that they removed his account. The only remnants of it are on the Wayback Machine, but I don't know if it's just my crap internet or something, but none of the pages could load for me. Either way, that's the story of how Donald Trump himself, 45th president of the United States, got perma-banned from Twitch. I mean, I'm sure I've spoken about Donald Trump in passing in recent videos, but so have I about this next streamer, Zillion OP. And his name is infamous. If you know his story, you know how absolutely bonkers it is. Things are about to get wild. His story might just be the most famous of all of these that I'm going to include here, with videos from SunnyV2 and Wavy Websurf garnering millions of views. It's also one of the oldest stories today, and if you don't know this story, things are about to get real interesting. So in mid-2012, this man right here, Zillion OP, made a Twitch account where he'd stream various video games with a fairly substantial audience in and around the 300 viewers mark. Now, while his content might have just been of a plainly higher quality than many of the other people on Twitch at the time, it's fair to say that a big reason that he had so many active viewers on each stream was that Zillion OP was wheelchair bound, and it was a big part of the draw to his channel. He said that in 2011 he was involved in a serious car accident, and therefore had to be in a wheelchair, or so his audience thought, because in April 2013, the trajectory of his online career would take a dramatic turn, when suddenly, just like a miracle, he got up out of his wheelchair and began to walk. This was before realizing that his ruse had been exposed, shifting the camera down, turning the stream off, and lying, saying that he fell out of his wheelchair and that he had injured himself in doing so. As it turns out, this was not a miracle, but instead Zillion OP had been lying to his audience. People flocked to see that, yes, he was using his disability as a way to earn money from people donating to a man that they thought was truly disabled. Twitch banned him and he was soon forgotten about online. Until 2020, when the aforementioned Wavy Websurf interviewed him and he spilled the beans on the situation. So as it turns out, things were more shades of grey than they might have first appeared, because apparently he was actually injured at a point in time. Zillion OP was injured when he created his Twitch account. The problem was that between the time that he created his Twitch account and the time that he got exposed for walking, he had actually been in rehabilitation, but he failed to disclose this with his audience. So it wasn't like he was lying, but rather withholding the truth, if you know what I mean. And I think that he started to think that if he just stayed in the wheelchair, then people would give him more money, which they did. So, fraud? Yes, at a point in time, but not initially. Everyone that donated to him got their money back, but Zillion, as well as another account that he made years later, were given permabans. A lovely, morally dubious story with a lot of twists and turns, for sure. If you don't know who Saw Carl is, the next story might be a bit tough to understand due to the massive, glaring oversights that this Twitch streamer made, but if this video is going to prove anything to you, it's that Twitch streamers consistently make massive, glaring oversights. This was one of the biggest. So our story takes place in March 2020 when Call of Duty streamer Saw Carl was intoxicated on stream. As you can see right there, he had a can of Coors out and he was playing around with a suspectingly unloaded gun. I think you can see where this is going because as it turns out, in truth, he did actually have a bullet inside this gun. The streamer didn't know this though and shot the gun at his metal cup at an extremely close range, with the bullet ricocheting and subsequently destroying a monitor. This would be the moment that his career would essentially die, because he was kicked out of the Saw clan, leaving him now known as just Carl. He acknowledged that what he did was incredibly irresponsible and that it could have ended up with someone being injured or worse, but Twitch did not seem to care and his account is still down to this very day. It's a short story for sure. Luckily, no one was actually injured in the firing, but Twitch saw this as grounds to permanently take away his account. Twitch definitely seems like it's been ramping up its bans and suspensions this year, with the main character of our next story being banned from the platform in March. Online, he goes by the name Destiny, and he got banned for a similar reason as many of the people in my banned YouTube channel's video, and that was his views towards certain groups of people, or in the words of Twitch, promoting, encouraging, or facilitating the discrimination or denigration of a group of people based on their protected characteristics. The group itself is unknown to the public and might even be unknown to Destiny himself. Destiny believes that he was banned because of his views on trans athletes, a debate that is becoming more and more popular with every passing year. The idea being that if someone was born a biological male and then transitions to become female, they should not be allowed to compete with biological females, because being born a biological male, you're going to be given so many more attributes and just biological factors that are going to help you dominate in sport. It would essentially ruin women's sport. That was his opinion, and that's why he thought he got permabanned. But it might also have been because he invited Nick Fuentes, a white nationalist, onto his stream, and Nick Fuentes has already been permabanned from Twitch, so it might have been because he actually took someone that was permabanned and put him on Twitch again. Fuentes himself was also recently implicated in an uptick of hate raids against women and LGBTQ+ streamers on Twitch. Due to the Fuentes debate occurring shortly before Destiny was banned, many theorized that this was the reason that he was given the boot. But really, we don't have a definite answer, and going on half a year since his permaban, Twitch haven't gone back on their decision, and Destiny remains not allowed on the platform. So to my knowledge, Darius IRL is one of the smaller streamers that I'm going to include in this video. There's a good chance you haven't heard of him. And on top of this, his ban is fairly recent, only happening in July of this year. It's also one of the more interesting stories in this video, so we're going to have to backtrack a little bit to find out why he's no longer allowed on Twitch. So to provide you with some context, he was actually permabanned a few days before he was permabanned yet again. He was let back onto the platform eventually, but initially he was permabanned because he rapped the N-word in a song. You might see dropping the N-bomb as clearly violating Twitch's terms of services. Easy ban. But it's not that simple, because from sources I've read, Darius IRL is half black. Now, by looking at my complexion, you can probably hazard the guess that I'm not the right kind of guy to say who gets the pass and who doesn't. I don't know if you have to be all black, I don't know if you have to be half black or mostly black, or maybe even not black at all to say this earth-shattering word, this titan, this fast track to cancellation. So I decided to watch a panel of black people talk about the word, and I'm still no closer to understanding. It seems as though saying this word is subjective, it depends on the person, it depends on the context. But maybe Twitch knows, because he was granted his account back after he posted pictures of his ancestors on Twitter. I mean, I don't know how far back these people are, but it's fair proof, and he was granted his account back. For now, because only a few days later he was given yet another permaban, this time for breaching sexually explicit content, and this time was a lot more clean cut, but not for the reason that you might think, because he didn't really actually do anything. He watched a video that you can find on YouTube called Pretty Ricky Late Night Special. And the video is essentially of 5 guys gyrating in the air. The dance that they're doing is obviously suggestive, yes, but Darius IRL brought up a very good point that when it's compared to some of the stuff that's going on Twitch, what he was watching was very, very tame. Definitely not warranting a perma ban, and to be honest, I have to agree with him on this. I don't really know too much about his content outside of his bannings, and without saying my stance on nudity or near-nude content on Twitch, if you're going to ban him for watching that, you're going to have to permaban a lot of people. As he said on Twitter, some people literally have ass cams out there, and I'm not saying that that's wrong, but if you deem this over the line, then you have to remain consistent, right? Or maybe you don't. I don't know. What do you guys think? Either way, 2 months later after being kicked out of Twitch, he has not been let back inside. Hey guys, this is Fox Post Edit, and I want to back up my point by saying something that happened last night. This guy here, Prezzo, he's a big streamer. Last night, he came in really drunk, butt naked, on stream, live on stream. He thought he turned it off. He came in butt naked and got into bed. You saw everything. Here's a question. How long does Prezzo get banned for? 3 days. And I'm not saying that he should be banned for any longer, but again, I am saying there's inconsistencies in what Twitch was doing there. I thought I should just mention that because it's a wild Twitch story that happened just last night, but either way, let's carry on with the rest of the video. I think that it's appropriate if we carry on talking about the topic of sexually suggestive Twitch streamers because they've been a very big part of the platform for a good few years now. It's almost like a little identity of Twitch. And it's not just the people that react to adult content that Twitch has a problem with, but it's also some of the people that do it that come under heavy fire, as what happened to Indie Fox in 2021. It's to my understanding that over the years, Twitch has become a little bit more relaxed on this kind of thing, but even then, every now and then you will still see that they're sticklers for purity, and Indie Fox's content was anything but pure. I don't know how much of this I'll be allowed to show because while YouTube is a little bit more relaxed on this stuff, it's really not by much. Long story short, Indie Fox kept creating the suggestive content, which Twitch had a really big problem with, and therefore bans were frequent. At one point before her permaban, she was banned 6 times in just as many months. So once her career got the final curtain call, it must have not been too much of a shock. Essentially, she was banned for her content, which is a bit strange again, because there are a lot of Twitch streamers that do basically the exact same thing and face no repercussions. This was just an example of someone that did it and eventually did get a permanent ban from the site. There's not really too much of a story there, but I thought I had to include someone who was banned from Twitch because of their sexually suggested content, because it has become such a big part of the platform in recent times. Another thing that this video would not be complete without is a mention of Ice Poseidon, who got banned in one of the most bizarre ways ever. So he's a creator that a lot of you might have heard of before, but you might not know the reason that he was terminated from Twitch's servers. And the answer to that story can be found if we flash back to the year 2017 for a moment. So Ice Poseidon rose to prominence on Twitch initially back in 2015, being banned a few times over the next few years for a few days at a time, nothing serious. He was most known for his IRL streams. But Judgment Day came in 2017 though, because he did perhaps one of the dumbest things a streamer of his caliber could do. If a commentary YouTuber wanted to make a video on the matter, they'd surely make reference to the fact that April 28, 2017 was the day that Ice Poseidon's Twitch career died. Because it was the day that he was traveling on American Airlines Flight 458 in Phoenix, Arizona, where he decided to live stream his entire airport experience. And I mean everything. What gate he was at, what flight he was on, and people found out what time it was leaving, and he got swatted. I'm not going to say that this man deserved it, he is clearly the victim, nobody deserves to be swatted, but I am going to say that there were very simple ways to prevent this from happening. Still, Twitch did not like this turn of events one bit, and they branded him too dangerous because the dude literally got a plane with many passengers on it swatted. They gave him a ban to the roar of disapproval from fellow streamers. But years on, they've kept their foot down, and he's had to look to other streaming sites such as the late Mixer, rest in peace, and currently YouTube to keep his streaming career alive. Luckily for him, this was the one and only time he got plane swatted. So this next streamer that I'm going to talk about comes from a very famous story that I'm quite sure you would have heard, but you might not have heard this part to it. And for me to explain this, we're going to have to go back to the early days of TikTok. To be more specific, the days of the "why do good girls like bad guys" meme, where some neek would pretend to be a nerd and, just like the Don't Judge Me challenge a few years before, act like a complete loser, cover the camera, and oh wow, they're a hot guy, I can't believe that. Within that trend came this guy here, the Bidet, who is, in my opinion, TikTok's first celebrity. This dude is the Fred of TikTok. He walked so Charli D'Amelio could run. I'm gonna delve more into the story of the Bidet in a future installment of the Book of the Banned series about banned TikTok accounts. But all you need to know is that it's alleged that the slightest amount of TikTok fame got to his head and he began DMing underage fans, causing his account to be struck. Now you might be wondering, what does this have to do with Twitch? And I'll tell you. A short while after these events, someone noticed this new account named Freak Alpha, which, to the shock and surprise of everyone, was Buddy Haynes, otherwise known as the Bidet. People began to look up this new username online, and guess what they found? The Bidet was a Twitch streamer under this new username. Not for long though, because once Twitch found out, his account was banned, as the Bidet has been essentially blacklisted from all social media. Again, I will speak about him a little bit more in depth in a future video, but just know for now he actually had a banned Twitch account. And now for the story of Narcissa Wright. whose tale might be the most extreme reason why someone on this video got banned. If you've never heard of her before, she's actually quite infamous online, and her story is a lot longer than I'll be able to squeeze into this video. I'd recommend checking out Cecil McFly's 3-hour video on the topic if you want a longer explanation. But if you want a nicely condensed version, Narcissa was one of the internet's most popular early streamers, being best known for speedrunning Legend of Zelda games, in total earning more than 30 million views and at a point in time frequently streaming in front of thousands. Her tale though would soon turn into tragedy, as eventually she would close her own Twitch account down due to negative comments that she was receiving. This was in 2016, but she would soon open it back up on her own accord. What was out of her control though was the face of her account in 2018 after she accidentally violated Twitch's policy on nudity and sexual content. Apparently her account was banned indefinitely, but she would return to Twitch in March of 2022 when something shocking would happen. She opened up graphic content from a viewer on her stream, causing Twitch to once again suspend her account. This is when Narcissa went off the deep end and tweeted, "I want to kill myself and shoot the people at Twitch HQ." This was met with a permaban from Twitch before shortly being reduced to a 22-day suspension, and then Twitch went back on her suspension, re-permabanning her, with Narcissa having to move over to YouTube ever since. Her reputation was tarnished before these events, but it's even more so now. But if we're going to talk about Twitch, we have to discuss their adversary, Kick. When that previous video was made, Kick wasn't even born yet. The next video that I'm about to show you is almost 2 years old by this point, so a lot has happened ever since it first aired. But if you want to open up an archive into the earliest days of Kick, this next video was part of my Scroll of Scandals series, and it really accurately demonstrates the controversies that were present in the earliest days of the platform. So without further ado, let's give it a look. Anti-trans, anti-Jew, anti-black. These are all labels that a popular Minecraft streamer named Tubbo ascribed to users of the streaming platform Kick. Why? Well, another popular Minecraft streamer named Sapnap recently made a move over to the site. As a Minecraft streamer, it goes without saying that Sapnap is going to have a younger audience who Tubbo thought shouldn't be on the site. He seemed to have been of the approach that Sapnap was responsible for these younger audience members and therefore should have been wiser in decision making his points with some gusto.
I feel like this platform is not a safe place to be openly trans, not a safe place to be openly Jewish, not a safe place to be black, for example. It's insane. With such a large and powerful voice, it's best that you're more responsible with where you want to bring your community, and you have a responsibility to protect them as well.
Of course, when two big streamers disagree on any topic, other creators will be there covering the news and giving their thoughts on it, but at least in this instance, it seems as though public opinion was relatively divided. People saw it from different perspectives. On Team Tubbo, you'd have people who share his point of view. As we'll absolutely get into later, Kick is much less moderated than other areas of the internet. It seems almost like a site from 10 to 15 years ago rather than one today. In the modern landscape of the internet, sites often find themselves opting to moderate a lot of what goes on there because advertisers seem to prefer non-controversial content. Kick, however, have seen a gap in the market, as there are a lot of people who got fed up with its predecessor, Twitch, being too harsh on enforcing its rules, and therefore one of Kick's selling points is that it's a bit edgier. It allows in an audience that pulls less punches, and of course a byproduct of that is that you're going to get some people who go on there just to post a bunch of slurs, to say some horrible things, and face no consequences in doing so. The argument is, of course, by Sapnap moving over to Kick, he's upped the chances of his audience seeing this kind of stuff. There undoubtedly will be some people from Sapnap's audience who are young and would follow him to the ends of the earth, Kick included in there, and you have to ask, is this fair to them? Is it fair to potentially expose them to slurs and other hateful language? Well, maybe, and that sounds horrible to say, but hear me out, we're going to listen to both sides of this. A former Twitch streamer turned YouTube streamer called Ludwig spoke about the debate on his channel Mogul Mail, where he too questioned the move.
Kick.com right now, I think is a little too unmoderated and a little too associated with just hate speech outright. And so a creator like Sapnap going over will be an interesting test. We will see. All right, is he going to be hate rated by the people who are around him? Will the people who go to Sapnap's stream feel comfortable being on that stream?
Clearly Ludwig was apprehensive about the move, but these are the questions that were always going to be asked. This acquisition from Kick was really the first of its kind. It's the first time that a Minecraft streamer as large as Sapnap has gotten up, strolled across no man's land, and gone into the enemy trench. And time will only tell how it plays out. But there were some people who made the argument that Tubbo's response was stupid. Achito, a commentary creator, made the point that stuff like gender, sexuality, and religion is unlikely to come up during a livestream chat. He argued that Sapnap's audience very likely will not be targeted because they're trans or black or Jewish, because who's out there on a live stream race revealing in the chat?
But my first question is, how would you even be openly gay on kick.com? Okay, if you're just in Sapnap's chat, are you literally typing out in chat, hey guys, this is me, I'm gay, I like penis. Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean?
Moreover, he made the point that it's not Sapnap's responsibility to look after his audience, because at the end of the day, it's the responsibility of the parents to make sure that their children are on age-appropriate sites.
You don't have to protect your fans. What is this parasocial mentality, dog? What is this? These people are not your parents. These people are influencers. They play Minecraft, okay? Your parents should be the ones looking after you, like seeing what websites you're going on.
Turkey Tom, on his second channel Tom Dark, argued that the entire response was overblown. He made the claim that Kick really isn't the monster that most people think it is, and that because Sapnap doesn't have a bigoted audience, it's not like he's going to adopt one overnight because he went over to a new platform.
Sapnap is someone who's a mainstream creator. He's not racist, he's not edgy in any way, he doesn't like any of that stuff, and yet here he is going to Kick because they offered him some money. If anything, him going there will make that platform less racist, less bigoted, and less edgy.
Tom's audience seemed to agree with him, with one person comparing Minecraft Twitter's reaction to the entire incident to Sapnap violating the Geneva Convention. So you have to ask, for Sapnap, why risk it? Does he want to be a good ambassador for Kick like he says? Does he want to be the one to bring positive change to the platform? Or does he want a bit of change himself? Let's not kid ourselves here, I have to assume that this decision was mostly financial, as over the past couple of months, Kick has been scooping up unhappy streamers, paying them multi-million-dollar contracts to come over and stream. I don't know the guy, but based upon the fact that people often question if he actually cares for the audience that he's cultivated, or for being a positive role model, it could definitely be that he saw the check, closed his eyes, and signed on the dotted line. If I'm being frank here, to be a Minecraft creator is to be an entertainer to an audience mostly comprised of children and teenagers. Of course there are older audience members who can watch and enjoy this content too, but a large portion of Sapnap's audience is a younger demographic. Maybe this move was simply a way of him distancing himself from them now that he's a bit bigger and is no longer as dependent on them anymore. His announcement video might be seen as a clue, as he's watching Cocomelon before destroying his name. Maybe this is me going all game theory on him, but this could be him trying to tell us that he's done with that kind of stuff. As I've already mentioned, Kick has been paying exorbitant amounts of money recently, and over the past year has consistently been poaching talent away from Twitch. But how did we get to where we are now? Well, that's exactly what we're about to get into in a moment, because in this video, we're taking a look at some of the largest controversies that Kick has seen in its short life. From sex scandals to problematic personalities, it seems like the site is making headlines every day. To give you some background, Kick was founded in late 2022 as a competitor to Twitch, perhaps the largest live streaming site on the web. For years now, creators have been complaining about the service. As I covered in my Twitch episode in my Book of the Ban series, they terminate a lot of accounts, and they tend to be quite inconsistent in who they go for and why, and this has led to a lot of resentment. Additionally, in autumn 2022, gambling was culled from the site in a move spearheaded by one of the largest streamers, Pokimane. Unlicensed gambling sites, many of which were extremely popular, were banned. We're talking the likes such as Roobet.com, Duelbits.com, and of course, Stake.com. These sites apparently didn't provide enough customer protection, and Twitch deemed them to be potentially harmful. Keep in mind that contrary to popular belief, this didn't entirely kill off gambling on Twitch. Some forms of gambling were still allowed, but in less than a year since the banning of these unlicensed sites, Twitch has reported that viewership of gambling content is down by 75%. This new change in policy angered a lot of viewers and streamers alike. Knowing what we know now, this could have been a grave mistake for the site. Though perhaps Kick's greatest advantage was the gargantuan blunder that Twitch made when they announced they were changing their 70-30 revenue split for premium streamers. Essentially, streamers that were large enough, ones that brought viewers over to the site, were able to get a deal from Twitch in which they kept 70% of the revenue earned through subscriptions, but Twitch announced that it was going to change this so that all of their deals with streamers went down to a 50-50 split. Every large streamer had to ask themselves, why should I stay here on Twitch if my revenue's being cut from 70-30 to 50-50? Keep this in mind too, if you're unaware, Twitch is owned by Amazon. You know, one of the most profitable companies in the world. It's not like it's a fledgling little startup. I have to assume that this was purely a move for greed, and it cost Twitch dearly. They had already been losing talent to YouTube over the past year or two, with the likes of Valkyrae, Sykkuno and Ludwig signing exclusive deals to come over. But in late 2022, things would go from bad to worse when Bijan Tirani and Ed Craven, the founders of Stake.com, as well as streamer Trainwrecks TV, better known as Train, would found Kick. Their company would offer creators a 95-5 split for subscriptions, so 95% of revenue earned would go to the creator. By March of this year, big names such as Aiden Ross and chess grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura would join the site. Then in June, XQC was given a contract worth $70 million to stream on Kick for 2 years. Then 2 days later, the site signed Amaranth for an undisclosed amount, but based off XQC's contract, we could assume that this deal was worth potentially tens of millions. Of course, other creators who had been permanently banned by Twitch made the move over too, and so here we are today. Twitch is losing creators fast. YouTube and Kick are poaching them all one by one, and not everyone is too happy about it. Back in July this year during a live stream, Pokimane came out with some choice words against Kick. She was asked by a viewer if she would change her colours from purple to green and sign with Kick if offered $10 million, and she argued against it. She said that she's already got a lot of money, so it really wouldn't make sense to compromise her morals to sign on the dotted line.
Nope. No, and it's not because I got like $10 million, it's just because I'm good as I am. Why would I compromise my morals and ethics for more money when I have money? Something about that is so cringe to me personally. Like, I understand, you know, if you need to make money. Can someone put this into words better than I can? It's almost embarrassing.
Now, Pokimane has some trouble articulating her point here. It's quite difficult to say that you're an insanely rich multi-millionaire without sounding boastful, but that's essentially what she was saying. In her mind, Kick is morally grey. It's perhaps just a bit unethical. Though she doesn't expressly say it, it's possible that she agrees with a lot of what Tubbo had to say, mainly that being that Kick isn't moderated enough, and that it fosters an offensive or even problematic user base. But as you might expect, there were many people who criticised Pokimane because of her viewpoints. As we mentioned earlier, there are creators out there who have argued that Kick's user base really isn't as bad as many people would have you believe. XQC said that he genuinely didn't understand the morals and ethics argument, and even Kick itself responded to the drama with a TikTok that poked fun at the streamer.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
This clip is clearly implying that it's really not her business where a streamer decides to go. Something else has to be said of Pokimane's position though, and it's a point I'm not sure has been explored very much or expanded upon, but you could definitely make the argument that Pokimane inadvertently led to the rise of Kick, even if it was just in part. As I mentioned earlier, Pokimane was one of the largest critics of gambling content on Twitch, and as I discussed in my Scammers Iceberg last December, gambling content had become incredibly popular on Twitch prior to its erasure. Towards the end of its life, gambling was in the top 10 categories on the platform, increasing in popularity by 66% compared to the year prior, and then Slicker had to go and scam everyone, and well, you know, it wasn't too long until the category was catapulted into non-existence. Pokimane was one of the largest advocates for Twitch to do something about the category, and within days, gambling restrictions were put in place. Was Pokimane wrong for doing this? We'll get into that in a moment, but one of her main arguments was that gambling was supposedly being promoted to young audiences. Was this true? Again, we'll get into that in a moment, but for now, let me tell you that almost 75% of Twitch's audience is apparently under 35 years old. But since no report I found was able to give a reliable estimation on their under 18 audience, it's kind of tough to gauge just how many under 18s watch. Still though, you have to assume that it's a fair percentage. So the question has to be asked, does Pokimane have a leg to stand on? Is access to gambling content for young people really that unethical? Well, to find out, I guess we're going to have to take a look at it. Obviously, this portion of the video is going to be difficult to do because there are just so many different forms of gambling and even more types of gamblers. So I'm going to try and focus on just the impact of these sorts of streams and under 18's responses to gambling in general. So on the one hand, you have the argument that this was a gateway to gambling for the youth. Twitch doesn't have age verifications put in place. If you want to watch a gambling stream, all you have to do is click on a button saying that you're okay with it. This means that young people can hypothetically easily access this sort of content, and studies have shown that they don't exactly fully understand it. The UK Gambling Commission found that around 3 in 10 of 11 to 16-year-olds were actively involved in gambling in the past 12 months. And these numbers can be broken down even further, as this study found that 27.3% of children this age are non-problem gamblers, 2.4% are at risk, and roughly 1% of 11 to 16-year-olds are classed as problem gamblers. Compare this to the adult population, where according to the UK government, 3.8% of gamblers are at risk and 0.5% have a problem, and you can see that it's not that far off. Now, you might be thinking that 0.5% is fairly low, and in some instances, of course it is, but when you look at the United Kingdom's population of 67 million, 0.5% of that is more than 300,000. If we're relating these numbers back to live streams, the same study found that 36% of its participants, so more than 1 in 3, were exposed to gambling content via live streaming. This number can be broken down into 44% of the boys asked and 28% of the girls. How many of those do you think were through Twitch? Of these people who said that they saw gambling content via live streams, 47% said that they were exposed to gambling at least once a week. In fact, live streams were the most common place for these children to be exposed to gambling advertisements on a regular basis, beating out the likes of other social media and television ads. So it seems as though Pokimane and the other anti-gamblers were in a way correct. Under 18s, just like adults, do consume gambling content, and they do form unhealthy relationships with gambling, and therefore you could definitely make the argument that gambling on Twitch should be restricted. At the same time though, of course there were arguments against this. Just as we said before, many people would say that it should be the parents' responsibility to make sure that their children consume appropriate content, not streaming sites. And if we're looking at Kick specifically, something that's come up a lot in this video is that it's not appropriate for younger audiences. In this case, good. If under 18s actively seek out gambling content online, there's no stopping them. But because the general consensus is that Kick.com is a bit edgier and not as safe for young audiences, if a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old is on Kick, watching someone play slots, you might make the argument that those are their choices, and if they then go and gamble, those are their consequences. If you look at Kick's gambling live streams, they all say 18+. As we know, there's an audience for it, so if Twitch isn't going to take it, Kick will. So what do you guys think? Let me know respectfully down in the comments below as I move on to yet another area of Kick that people have had a problem with, that being the violations of their sex and nudity policy. So we've touched on hate speech and gambling content so far in this video, and I wanted to discuss yet another aspect of Kick content, one that I don't think has been spoken about so much, that being the overt sexual content that is on the site already. Now, sexual content and live streaming go together like apple and pie. The past few years have seen e-girls especially make some serious bank by engaging in sexually suggestive content over Twitch. I've discussed this topic at length in both my video on e-girls and banned Twitch users, but essentially, Twitch has been quite inconsistent in what they do and don't allow on the site. As I discussed in these videos, you've had creators like Amaranth who did similar things to IndieFox, but IndieFox's Twitch account was terminated for 2 years, whereas Amaranth was allowed to carry on. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, Amaranth, one of the largest Twitch streamers, has now signed on with Kick. And purely based on the rules that were announced on Kick's Discord, it seems as though Kick on paper have similar policies when it comes to sex and nudity to Twitch. So when a Kick streamer called Suspendus immediately had sex whilst live back in December 2022, it caused a bit of a stir. According to a Sportskeeda article, Suspendus, an IRL streamer, appeared to be fully naked while live. And according to online gaming reporter Jake Lucky, he apparently had engaged in sexual intercourse with a hooker. Worse yet, if this was in fact true, he was able to evade any and all consequences. Suspendus is still on Kick to this very day, despite being embroiled in yet another sex scandal only a few months later. In early April 2023, he allegedly was having sex whilst there was a minor in close proximity. I can't verify for certainty if this is true or not. My source for this story is Eleni Thomas, who wrote about it in an article for Dexerto. Her source links a Reddit page in which people went off on Suspendus, but as I said before, and please pardon the pun, he's still around and kicking. Of course, this isn't even where Kick's sex scandals stopped either. If we take things back to February this year, news stories started dropping about another Kick streamer, this one called Heel Mike. If you look him up, you'll see all sorts of articles written about him. Heel Mike is quite the controversial figure, but back in late February this year, it was announced that Heel Mike was actually banned from Kick for streaming himself receiving head. That's right, he slopped his way to the top, generating 25,000 viewers who all tuned in to see his knob get gobbled. But this would not go down well, as obviously this is against Kick's rules. His punishment? A 1-day suspension. He tweeted out his support for Kick, saying that it's the GOAT or the greatest of all time because it tells creators where they went wrong. I guess he must have missed the memo about receiving head on stream, but nonetheless, that was the last sex scandal that Kick ever had. For about 24 hours. Because it was during this time that another Kick streamer, Aiden Ross, was still dealing with the fallout of his own controversy. Aiden Ross might have called hot tub streams poison in the past in a rant that he's since apologised for, but this hasn't stopped him from showing straight up nudity on his stream on more than one occasion. The first instance was back in February. As I said, it was at the same time that Heel Mike had his scandal, and the dude literally whipped up the hub whilst his chat went wild. In this instance, Ross was able to avoid getting a ban, going on later to brag about it. A few months later, in August 2023, he was streaming himself on a website called monkey.app, which operates in a similar fashion to Omegle, and you can start to see where this is going. He violated Kick's nudity policy again in this stream, but as was the same case in February, he was once again able to avoid any repercussions. Clearly, Kick is playing favourites here, which is what annoyed a lot of people about Twitch. It's easy to understand why some fans might get annoyed if their favourite streamer was banned for something that Aiden Ross was given a pass for. And for that reason, time will only tell if history once again repeats itself. But of course, Aiden Ross has done a lot more than just show nudity on his streams to generate controversy. He's one of the figureheads of Kick, but also one of its most contentious streamers. It's time to talk about Ross himself and why his mere existence is a source of controversy for the site. You probably know Mr. Ross by now, but just in case you don't, the 22-year-old is currently one of the most controversial figures on the internet. Why? Well, for starters, many people have called him both homophobic and transphobic. In terms of his homophobic controversies, there have been instances of Ross allegedly using homophobic slurs.
Yeah, I don't know. He did you again? He got you again?
Yes, bro. Like, this kid's a
No!
He then apparently tried to gaslight people into thinking that he said Alan, but very few people were buying it. In response, Ross was banned from Twitch, and so he took to Kick, allegedly not knowing why he was banned. As for his attacks on the trans community, Ross has made it clear that he doesn't seem to believe in any other gender identity other than male and female. He seems to believe that people that use they them pronouns are just looking for attention, and in what's been described as a transphobic rant from March of this year, he even went as far as to say that his pronouns were kill/them.
To all you guys that get to pick your pronouns, my pronouns is kill/them, okay? Fuck all y'all, bro. Y'all are making the world a shitty place, bro. I'm gonna call you either a guy or a girl.
Of course, this led a lot of people who didn't take too kindly to the LGBT community to flock over to Ross, who apparently had his Kick chat live on Twitch for roughly 20 minutes, and these people spewed very insensitive messages. As I've mentioned before, Kick has very little moderation compared to Twitch, and so the things that people were saying on Kick were unhinged to say the least. Very unhinged, in fact. So unhinged that, according to Dixerto, this was potentially the reason that he got permanently banned from Twitch in February. A Twitch spokesperson told Dixerto that Aiden Ross was banned after showing unmoderated, hateful conduct in chat. Per our community guidelines, unmoderated, hateful conduct in chat, such as racist and anti-Semitic messages, is not allowed on Twitch. Ross had made the move to Kick just days before, but in the fallout of these events, he now had to go full-time. If you take a look at his former Twitch account today, you'll see that it's still gone, likely never to come back. So Ross officially moves over to Kick, and ever since he's been one of the stars of the site. But with a figure as controversial as Aiden Ross, you have to wonder, is this a good thing for the service? Let's be honest, Ross is not exactly squeaky clean. Streamers such as Pokimane and Tubbo probably have someone like Ross in mind when they speak to their audience about the morals and the ethics of Kick. Ross's audience have been known to spam some hateful, racist and bigoted messages in the chat. They've been known to trick the dude into seeing his sister naked on more than one occasion. You have to ask yourself, is this the kind of guy that you want representing your brand? Kick's CEO Eddie Craven admitted that Ross had been an asset in areas. After all, he had helped the platform grow in its infancy, but he'd be lying if he said that Ross wasn't a brand risk. Ross was one of the first big streamers across to Kick. He set the standard. But will him being such an important icon for the site turn out to be more of a poison chalice? I guess we'll have to wait and find out. So I'm going to try to make this brief because some people watching this might be asleep, but I just want to thank you guys very, very much if you've made it to this part of the video for watching the entire thing. Your support means so much to me. I cannot stress that enough. I haven't been able to make content over the past week or two because I've been moving and then I got sick and it's just been a real mess. So I really hope you guys don't mind the compilation this week. New original content will be released very, very soon. But if you like my compilation content and you want to watch another one, I made a video a couple of months ago on the worst content on TikTok, and it stitches together 5 previous uploads that cover banned TikTok users and TikTok controversies and scandals. It's a fantastic video, one of my favorite compilations I've made. Definitely go check it out by clicking on the screen right now. With that said, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.